Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So in this video, I'll be going through all of my Blu-ray and DVD pickups for the month of February 2022. So yeah, I won't waste your time any further. Let's get straight into it. So I've just got a few DVD pickups here, and the first one is a film called Garden State. So yeah, this is a film starring Zach Braff, Natalie Portman. It's also directed by Zach Braff. And he basically plays a guy who he's living out in Los Angeles, and he comes back to his hometown in New Jersey, following a bit of a crisis, and he's kind of going through a bit of a rough patch. Comes home to try and reconcile with his dad, but also to kind of rediscover himself almost. And he meets Natalie Portman's character along the way, who's kind of a very quirky sort of girl, and she kind of opens his mind to new sorts of things. And yeah, it's a pretty good film overall. A very low budget independent movie, kind of a feel good film by the end of it. And yeah, it's definitely worth a watch. So yeah, that's Garden State. Okay, the next DVD I've got here is a film called The Shootist, starring John Wayne. So this film is like the epitome of a Sunday afternoon film. I always remember this being on TV as a kid on Channel 5, I think it was. And yeah, I have a lot of great memories of this movie. It was John Wayne's last film. He kind of plays an aging former bounty hunter who kind of comes to this town basically just to retire and live sort of a quiet life for the rest of his life. But of course, things happen, people show up that kind of stop that. And yeah, overall, it's a really enjoyable movie. It kind of mirrors where John Wayne was in his life. And yeah, there's kind of like a lot of parallels to, you know, his age at the time and just what he was going through. But yeah, it's really enjoyable film, probably one of his lesser known Western movies, but yeah, really enjoyable film. Yeah, that's The Shootist. And the last DVD pickup for the month is Some Kind of Wonderful. So yeah, this is a John Hughes movie, probably one of the more forgotten John Hughes movies. And I can kind of see why. It doesn't really stand out as much as, say, you know, The Breakfast Club or Ferris Bueller's or Planes, Trains and Automobiles. But if you like your 80s high school comedy drama type films, then I think you'll enjoy this one. It's got a really sweet story, good characters, got a really good 80s soundtrack as well. But yeah, that is Some Kind of Wonderful. Okay, so onto the DVDs now, and the first one I've got here is a film called Better Off Dead. So yeah, this is a film we were talking about on Playtendo guy, Pete. We were talking on his stream along with Andy at Forgotten World at Movies, and we got talking about this film, and I'd never seen it before. I don't think I'd even heard of it. But yeah, it's kind of like another sort of 80s high school comedy film starring John Cusack, but very bizarre movie, very odd sort of tone, some very eccentric characters in this film, some very eccentric moments. It's a film that I did enjoy, but I know it was a little bit rough around the edges for me. But I do know that this is a film that when I watch it again, I know I'll probably like it more. There was a lot of stuff that I noticed in this film that did appeal to me, but there's just like so many things going on in this movie that I think on first viewing it is a bit of a rough watch, but I know when I watch it again, I will probably enjoy it a lot more. But overall, it's a really enjoyable movie. Okay, the next Blu-ray I've got here is Black Christmas. So yeah, this is a very early slasher film, considered by many to be sort of one of the very first slashers. It predates Halloween, of course. And yeah, I'd never seen this movie before. I had been wanting to see it for years, and I finally picked it up. And yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. I was quite surprised at its intensity, and you know, it was quite creepy in a lot of places. Really good atmosphere, really good cast. You know, you got like Margot Kidder in there, you got John Saxon, some really like great people in this movie. You know, it's similar to Halloween, but takes a very different approach, and I really liked it for that. And yeah, like I just thought it was a really good film, and I was really surprised at how much it kind of got under my skin. So yeah, that is Black Christmas. Next Blu-ray I've got here is Black Death, starring Sean Bean, Eddie Redmayne, and Karis Van Houten. And yeah, this is a British medieval Middle Ages movie, but it's kind of like a horror movie, and it's basically about a group of people who, well, they're living in the times of the Black Plague, the Black Death, but this group of people, they venture to this village that for some reason has not been affected by the Black Plague, and they basically go there to find out why. And I have to say, this film was absolutely brilliant. I picked it up for 50p in CEX, and one of the best finds for me. I absolutely loved this film. If you like your sort of your Middle Ages, medieval type movies, but you also like films like The Witch or The Wicker Man, then this will definitely be for you. Everything about it was great. The production values, the acting, the atmosphere had a really sort of unnerving, dread-inducing kind of atmosphere. And yeah, I thought it was a great film and definitely recommend it. I think it's very underrated. Next Blu-ray I've got here is Brokeback Mountain. So this is another CEX pickup that I think it was about 50p, something like that. Yeah, I had never seen this movie. I remember it coming out. I think I was about 14, 15 when it came out. I remember the Oscar buzz for it. I remember hearing what it was about, the type of movie it was. And yeah, really, really good drama, good acting, really good story, very simple, kind of has a sort of an independent kind of feel to it. And yeah, I can't really say much more than that. Really, really good movie. If you like your dramas, then I don't see why you wouldn't enjoy this one as well. But yeah, that is Brokeback Mountain. Next Blu-ray I've got here is Eden Lake. So yeah, this is a horror movie that basically about a couple who are terrorized by a gang of youths while they're on sort of a vacation. Yeah, I had heard about this movie, and I already knew how it ended, but I still wanted to see the movie anyway because of what I'd heard. And yeah, I know this can be a very, very difficult watch for some people. Yeah, it's quite an uncomfortable movie to sit through. Pretty dark. There's no hope at all in this movie, but I enjoyed it for its intensity. I enjoyed it for the horror elements. I like movies that can shock me. And yeah, this one definitely did, even though I already knew how it ended, but I still had a really good time with it. But yeah, I know this won't be for everyone, this film, but overall I really enjoyed it. So yeah, that's Eden Lake. Next Blu-ray I've got here is Firewall, starring Harrison Ford. So yeah, this is a movie I'd heard about it, and I know it's not really considered to be that great, but overall I thought it was fine. It did the job for me. It didn't blow me away. It's not a movie I'm probably going to come back to all that often, but I will watch Harrison Ford in literally anything. I think he's a fantastic actor, and he's great in this movie. There's some other good cast members in the film. There's some decent sort of action sequences, some tense moments in places. But yeah, I know overall it's probably a bit of an average affair, but I still enjoyed it for what it was. Next Blu-ray I've got here is Halloween Kills. So yeah, I picked this up on a 2 for $25 offer at HMV. I was waiting until it went a little bit cheaper. Now, I know this film isn't considered to be that great, and I know that a lot of people don't really like it at all. I thought it was pretty good. I don't think it's one of the best Halloween movies by any stretch, but it did the job for me. Michael Myers is great in it. I mean, he is pissed in this movie. He is so brutal. The violence is great. There's great gore, and overall, I think it's a very entertaining movie. I don't really get the hate for it. I know there are some aspects to it, like some of the character decisions. I know some people aren't a fan of the whole sort of Evil Dies Tonight stuff, but I don't know, that stuff doesn't really bother me. I think this movie is just as good as any of the other Halloween sequels. I think it's much better than most of them. I would rather watch this movie over the likes of 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Yeah, I mean, I know it's not one of the best, but I do still enjoy it, and I enjoyed rewatching it, and yeah, I can't really say much more than that. Yeah, that is Halloween Kills. Next one I've got here is Junior. So yeah, I know this film is not not considered to be very good. But I've always had a bit of a soft spot for this movie. I know the concept is silly, but I don't think it's any more silly than the likes of Twins or Kindergarten Cop, which were obviously directed by Ivan Reitman as well, and they also starred Arnold Schwarzenegger. I think all three of the movies are good, but for some reason this one is always considered to be the lesser of the three. But I always have a pretty good time with it, I'm not gonna lie. And I've never owned it on physical media at all. I think every time I watched this movie, it was always when it was on TV or when I had it on like a tape or something. I've never owned it on DVD, and yeah, I saw the Blu-ray and I just thought, why not? I feel like revisiting this movie. And yeah, I do have a good time with it, but I know it's not like considered by many to be very good, but I don't know, I still like it. That's Junior. Next up, we've got Last Night in Soho. So this is the other film I got on the 2 for $25 offer along with Halloween Kills. And yeah, I was quite surprised to see it in the offer because I think it had only been out like a week, maybe 10 days at the most. So yeah, I was really happy to get it on the 2 for $25 offer quite quickly. And yeah, I'm not going to say too much about this movie. It's a really enjoyable film. Saw it in the cinema, had a blast with it. I struggled a little bit more when I watched it this time. I think it's probably because the movie's still a bit too fresh in my head. But overall, I still think it's a really good movie, and it was probably one of the best that we got from 2021, was it? Yeah, that was last year, wasn't it? But yeah, overall, it's a enjoyable movie. Next up, we've got The Long Kiss Goodnight. Yeah, I saw this one in CEX. Been meaning to watch this film for a while. I kind of wanted to watch it for the sort of the Shane Black, Rennie Harlan connections. Obviously, Rennie Harlan directed it. Shane Black wrote it. Overall, I thought it was fine. It was enjoyable action movie. It was maybe a little bit too long. The villains aren't very memorable, but Gina Davis is good in it. Samuel L. Jackson's a lot of fun in it. And there's some good action sequences. Yeah, I can't really say much more than that. That is The Long Kiss Goodnight. Next up, we've got The Mask of the Red Death. So yeah, this is a Vincent Price / Roger Corman / Edgar Allan Poe movie. And this is a movie that I was always hoping Arrow Video would release. Obviously, Arrow did all of the other Edgar Allan Poe, Vincent Price movies. But for whatever reason, it must have been like a rights issue. They could never do this one. And I was always really looking forward to this one coming out on Blu-ray, and finally we have it. And I have to say, I really, really enjoyed this movie. If you like Vincent Price, if you like sort of Hammer horror-esque kind of movies, I think you'll have a good time with this movie. Got a great atmosphere. Vincent Price is playing such an evil, horrible character, but he's always really good at playing those types of characters. And yeah, it's just a really, really enjoyable horror movie. Next up, we've got The Quick and the Dead. So this is another CEX pickup. I think this film is kind of hard to come by on Blu-ray. It was a little bit more than I was willing to pay for it, but in the end I pulled the trigger because I think it is kind of hard to find. But yeah, this is a Sam Raimi Western movie. You got Sharon Stone in there, Gene Hackman, Russell Crowe, Leonardo DiCaprio, really good cast. Overall, it's a pretty fun, enjoyable Western. It's not spectacular by any means, but if you like Sam Raimi, I think you'll enjoy it. There's a lot of Sam Raimi's sort of, his sort of quirks in this film, like his very exaggerated like zoom-ins like you see in the Evil Dead films and other films like that he's done. But yeah, if you like Western movies, if you like Sam Raimi, you'll probably enjoy this movie. That is The Quick and the Dead. Next up, we've got Resident Evil. Now, I've got to be honest, up until recently, I had never seen a single Resident Evil movie. I had never really grown up with the games. I know the films aren't meant to be they're not meant to be very faithful to the games, but just the franchise as a whole, I just never really grew up with it. And I saw this and I thought I would pick it up. I've been told by some people that of the franchise, this is one that is, not too bad. I've got to admit, I didn't really enjoy this movie. It wasn't for me, unfortunately. I think had I seen it when I was younger, maybe when I was a teenager, I probably would have enjoyed it more, and I'd probably still enjoy it now. But seeing it for the first time at the age I am now, I just couldn't really get on board with it, unfortunately. I was potentially going to maybe watch some of the other films in the franchise, but I think based on how I feel about this one, I think this is as far as I will go. But yeah, that is Resident Evil. Next up, we've got The Road. Now, I haven't actually watched this movie yet. I remember it coming out. I actually remember my work colleague at the time. She let me borrow her copy of the film. I think she had it on Blu-ray. But for whatever reason, I just never got round to watching it. I think it's one of those movies that, as far as I can tell, I think you have to be in the mood for, and I just never seem to be in the mood to watch it. I did also have the book, but I couldn't really get into the book because I think, from what I can remember, I think the book is kind of written in a very unique sort of way, with very long sentences, and I found it kind of hard to read, so I kind of abandoned that as well. But yeah, I saw this in CEX and I thought, I've got to give it a go because I've heard good things about it. I do like Viggo Mortensen and I do like apocalyptic kind of movies. So hopefully I enjoy it. But yeah, that is The Road. Next up, we have A Room with a View. So yeah, I picked this film up mainly for its cast. You've got the likes of Helena Bonham Carter, Daniel Day-Lewis, Julian Sands, Judi Dench, Maggie Smith. And what struck me about this movie was seeing all of those actors at the ages they were. I'm used to seeing the likes of Judi Dench and Maggie Smith in much later movies, being much older. In this movie, I think both of them were in their 50s, and they just look so different to the way I'm used to seeing them. And even Helena Bonham Carter, I think she was 19, maybe 18 when she made this movie, and I'm just not used to seeing her and Daniel Day-Lewis so young. I'm used to seeing them so much older. Overall, the movie was okay. I'm not really the biggest fan of this type of genre, sort of, your costume dramas, period kind of pieces. So I didn't really enjoy that aspect of it. But if you like your costume dramas, if you like sort of films set during this era, then I think you'll enjoy the movie. Really good performances from all the cast. Story is pretty good. But yeah, that is A Room with a View. Next up, we have the 1989 version of The Woman in Black. We were talking about this film possibly on the same stream, but it was Tony at Horror and Todge. We were talking about The Woman in Black, and we were talking about the Daniel Radcliffe version and how we weren't kind of the biggest fans of it. But then Tony mentioned this version, and I had heard about this version of the movie, but after Tony talked about it, I had to seek it out. And yeah, for a British made-for-TV movie, this movie is really good and very, very creepy. Brilliant atmosphere. Some of the visuals just get right under your skin. If you like your horror films that kind of do that instead of, big jump scares, lots of gore, things like that, then I would definitely recommend this. Really, really enjoyable horror and just a fantastic atmosphere. And for me, much better than the Daniel Radcliffe version. I really enjoyed it. Next up, we've got my 4K purchase of the month, and that is The Shawshank Redemption. I'm not going to say too much about the movie. Fantastic film, one of the best films ever, probably. I picked the 4K up because it was $9.99 with any purchase from HMV. I wasn't really going to get this on 4K because I'd kind of read mixed things about the 4K transfer, but it was after watching Jeff at Films at Home. He talked about the transfer, I did a review for it, and just seeing the comparison to the original Blu-ray, I was quite surprised at how different it actually looks, just in terms of the colour and the saturation. The 4K, by the looks of it, has a much colder kind of look, but it matches the film better, matches the tone of the film. So yeah, I was really glad to pick it up on 4K, and I can't wait to rewatch it because at the end of the day, the film is what's the most important, and it is a fantastic film. Now I'm on to a few boutique releases, and the first one I have here is a film called Come Back to the Five and Dime, Jimmy Dean, Jimmy Dean. Massive long title. But yeah, this is a movie that stars Cher, Karen Black, you've got Kathy Bates in there as well. It's directed by Robert Altman. And it's a film that I don't really hear that many people talk about. It's based off a play, also directed by Robert Altman, I believe. And then he obviously made it into a feature film. And it's basically about a group of girls who work at this diner, and they're massive James Dean fans, and they all meet up. It's like in the year 1975, I think. They all meet up basically on the reunion of James Dean's death, and they basically meet up to sort of reminisce. But the film shifts, it constantly shifts back between present day and the 1950s, when they were all working at the diner back then as well. Really, really interesting film, unique sort of approach. It does feel like you're watching a play when you watch it. It's all set in just one location. Everything about it just feels very simple and like you're watching a play. But it's the acting, it's the cast that really makes this movie excel. Just a really, really interesting movie, and definitely worth checking out if you like sort of Robert Altman, or you like maybe films kind of like like The Death of a Salesman adaptation or films like that. That's the kind of vibe I got from this movie. But yeah, overall it was really enjoyable. So yeah, that is Come Back to the Five and Dime, Jimmy Dean, Jimmy Dean. Next up we have an Arrow title, and it is a film called The Holy Mountain. So yeah, this is a film directed by Alejandro Jodorowsky, a director I've heard a lot about. I know Arrow did a box set of some of his films, but I wasn't really willing to pull the trigger on it, especially for a director who I knew literally nothing about. Overall, I did like this movie. It's visually very striking. Some of the visuals are quite insane, and after the movie's over, you are like thinking about it. Well, I was certainly thinking about it for a long time afterwards. There were aspects of it that I did struggle with. I did think it was kind of long. It's just under 2 hours, so it's not massively long, but I did feel that it dragged a bit in places. And yeah, it's just a very sort of perplexing kind of movie, very strange and unusual. And I do quite like films like that, but this one was a bit of a struggle for me. But I can't fault it in terms of the visuals. Just a really strange film, and like I said, I was thinking about it long after it was over. But I'm not too sure where I stand yet on whether I will see any more of his films. This may need another rewatch at the moment. But yeah, that is The Holy Mountain. Next up, I've got Moscow on the Hudson. So yeah, this is an indicator release, and it's an early film starring Robin Williams. I've not watched this one yet. I think he's basically playing a sort of a Russian musician who is with a traveling circus, and they come to America, and I believe his character decides to defect to the US, and he falls in love, and kind of goes from there, trying to live a new life in a new country. And I believe Robin Williams actually learned Russian for this movie, which if it's true, props to him. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to watching it. I love Robin Williams in anything. I think it is more of a drama than a comedy. And yeah, it is an early film from him. So I think it predates the likes of Dead Poets Society, Good Morning Vietnam, films like that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to watching it. That is Moscow on the Hudson. Next up, I've got an Arrow release, and it is Don't Go in the House. So yeah, this is the Arrow limited edition 3-disc version. Originally, I was just going to go with the standard version with the other slipcover, but I didn't realise that this version had that 3rd disc and that it was limited to this. And it was after watching John Mondo Celovic, after watching his video about this release, that he just completely sold me on it. And I think, I had a few words with John about it. We were kind of toing and froing about the movie. And yeah, after talking about it with him, I had to get it. And I'm so glad I did. The release is fantastic. That extra disc is great. And the movie is, surprisingly, I was really surprised at how good it was. I really enjoyed this movie. I know the concept, and I know even from looking at the cover, it looks like quite a grim movie, quite violent. But I'd say most of the violence in this movie is kind of implied instead of, outright seen. Obviously, there are a few moments, but overall, most of the murders that happen kind of happen off screen. So the violence isn't too bad. It's not as bad as what the movie makes it out to be. But yeah, it's kind of got like a Psycho vibe, also Maniac, films like that kind of melded together. But yeah, as I was saying, that third disc is great because you have the option to watch the movie kind of like from the perspective of seeing it in a cinema from the 1980s, sort of during the video nasty era. So you kind of get like a little animation of going into a cinema, and then you go into the screen and you get like some trailers for movies that came out at the same time as this. So for anyone who's kind of from that video nasty era, this release will probably be really sort of appealing to you. But yeah, on a whole, it's a really great release from Arrow, and the movie is really, really good. I was really surprised at its quality. But yeah, that is Don't Go in the House. Next up, we've got a Eureka release, and it is a film called Skinny Tiger, Fatty Dragon. So yeah, this is a film starring Carl Macker and Sammo Hung. And Sammo Hung is a fantastic actor, fantastic martial artist, and a great director. And I will watch him in literally anything. He's probably best known for working with Jackie Chan in a few movies like Project A, Wheels on Meals, Dragons Forever. But yeah, I'd never seen this movie, but I loved it. Great sort of buddy cop, action comedy. But there's plenty of great fight scenes, some really funny moments. Like some Hong Kong movies, the humour is maybe a little bit dated in places, but in this movie it's not too bad. Overall, it's just a really, really fun, entertaining movie, and if you like your Hong Kong action comedies, then I would definitely recommend this one. But yeah, that is Skinny Tiger, Fatty Dragon. And again, we have another Eureka release, and it is the sort of double pack of Warriors 2, The Prodigal Son, also another sort of Sammo Hung release. So yeah, this is two movies that are kind of loosely connected by one character being in both, just kind of from different time periods. And yeah, like the other release I just mentioned, if you like Hong Kong action movies, the likes of Jackie Chan, things like that, then yeah, you'll have a blast with these as well. They're just a lot of fun. If you like your martial arts films, then I can't really say much more than that. They're just a lot of fun. Great fight scenes, great comedy moments. Yeah, just really, really good movies, enjoyable for what they are. But yeah, that is Warriors 2 and The Prodigal Son. And the final Blu-ray I've got to show you is a film called Take Shelter. So yeah, I haven't seen this movie yet. This is a movie starring Michael Shannon, and from what I know, I think it's basically he's a guy who he lives sort of on a farm with his family, and he suddenly becomes convinced that the world is going to end, whilst everyone else thinks he's, crazy. That's what I gather from what I've been told about the movie, what I've read about the plot. I could be totally wrong in my synopsis for that, but that's sort of what I've gotten from it. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to watching it. I remember one of my work colleagues, he raved about this movie, said it was one of the best films he'd ever seen. So yeah, I can't wait to watch it. And yeah, it's a limited edition second sight release, and I found it in CEX, and you've got sort of the case in there, and you've got a booklet as well. And yeah, I can't really say much more about that because I haven't seen the movie, but if I like it, I'm sure you'll hear my thoughts about it later down the line. But yeah, that is Take Shelter. So that's it, guys. Those are my pickups for February 2022. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you've seen any of these movies, if you enjoy or if you don't enjoy any of these movies, let me know in the comments below. Love to hear your thoughts. Or if you've just got any comments at all, then yeah, just please leave them below. It'd be great to hear from you guys. But other than that, I will leave it there, and I will hopefully see you all again very soon. So yeah, take care, guys.